up, Vodudes? Now, this is the fourth time in a row that I've started one of these and then had to resume the recording, or redo the recording, I mean, because there's always something wrong because of my OBS settings, but hopefully everything is good now. I apologize for the previous one with whatever issues that it had, but I was happy to hear that, or happy to read that people said that they really watched it for just the commentary itself rather than for the gameplay anyways, which makes sense to me because I wouldn't be watching it for the gameplay either. At least not until some interesting stuff starts happening, but I'm not really sure just how interesting you can get with the gameplay here in Alliance. I'll talk about that in more detail when I do my review of the game, which, good news, should be done in not too long of a time now. I said that I wanted to take more time to get a better idea of the game and its gameplay, but in actuality, I feel like I was able to come to some pretty solid conclusions about the gameplay, even without having done a third full playthrough of the game on impossible difficulty. So now all that's left for me to do is the editing part of it. I already recorded the whole script in one take. It was 59 minutes long. So hopefully that doesn't detract from the quality. It makes it easier for me to edit the videos when I do it all in one take. That's part of the reason for me to do it like that. Ever since I was editing on the iPad, it was always easier that way. It's the amount of easiness is not as extreme compared to not doing it one take on this software versus when I was editing on the iPad. So it's not as big of a deal, meaning that it won't be as big of a loss if I stop doing that. But even still, with that one take, at least I have it. And if I don't like any portion of it, I can always just re-record that portion of the script and then slide it in there. It's just harder to do that on the iPad. So overall, I would say it's a win that I'm doing the editing on the computer now. Shout out to Ultra Jason for giving me the software for that. I had a dream about Ultra Jason, actually. I had a dream about a bunch of people. I've been having very long, elaborate dreams lately, but I will not talk about them here. Not because of suspicious content in the dreams, which I've probably just made them sound more suspicious by clarifying that, but because who wants to click on a video and hear somebody talk about their dreams? No. I think that the main goal for these videos should be for them to be like a comfort food for people. They get some sort of interesting commentary, whether it's funny or interesting to them in some other way. And the stuff that I would qualify as funny or interesting are either life stories, so, stuff like my dreams, which are just fiction, not as interesting. Although I guess if you're that curious, you can let me know in the comments if you want to hear about my dreams, or like analysis about the game. Like so far, there's already a couple of things I wanted to point out. Raylan for Brutal Slash is sort of like the centerpiece of my hero gameplay. I want her to use that ability on the tankiest enemy that's on the battlefield at all times. That being said, my micro is still suffering. As you can see, she's fighting this enemy while the Dark Knight could be the one fighting it instead. You could make the argument that it's better for her to be attacking it since she's the one that can gain XP from it, but she's going to need to stop and heal anyways. And it would have been better for her to stop and heal during the bear fight because the bear has more armor, so she's going to get less XP from hitting it because she's dealing reduced damage compared to attacking these guys. So the more optimal thing to do would have been to reverse the time period when she was healing so that way she can attack these guys for longer. But look at how much health she has anyways. It's not going to affect her at all. One of the reasons why the gameplay might suffer a little bit though is because if I'm going to play this, I need to start media maxing, meaning that I'm going to watch like a video on YouTube, for example, while also playing the game. Might as well. Like I've played the game thoroughly enough while beta testing it that I don't need to give 100% of my attention to it. Now, if it gets more difficult, it'll be a different story. At that point, I will probably lock in and not do anything at the same time. But for now, it's perfectly fine for me to multitask. So I was watching some of Red Letter Media's Best of the Worst series on YouTube. Probably my version of comfort food on YouTube. So it was a good time. Lots of giggles, chuckles, maybe even chortles while watching it. So I highly recommend that if you like the idea of seeing people make fun of movies together, and then maybe get some ideas for movies to watch together with friends. It used to be a thing. There's some life stories with my friend group that on my birthday we would always get together at my house and then watch a select So Bad It's Good movie. We watched The Room, Cool Cat Saves the Kids, which was my favorite of all the funny ones that we watched. Who Killed Captain Alex, and I think something else, but I can't remember what it was now. But we used to watch movies for my birthday all the way back when I was in elementary school. I think my mom got me tickets to see the Diary of a Wimpy Kid movie. I remember that one, and then Horton Hears a Who. Those are the two ones that we saw in theaters as a whole friend group. Like a lot of people from my class came with me to watch that together, and I think we got a tour of the movie theater after that. After the Horton Hears a Who one, they were explaining like how a film camera works. Um, Anyways, though, if the gameplay is too annoying and you need to see me like try hard, even the really really early levels of the game, I can't be bothered to change that. Like, sorry if that sounds kind of rude, but I think that's a little too down bad to need that out of the gameplay here, out of these early levels. At this point, I am the video that you would put on in the background while you're watching something else. If you're actually watching this video and paying attention to the gameplay and not just listening to my voice, you're weird. Not in a bad way, but that's not normal. I'm pretty sure most people now are doing the same thing where they're maxing out how many things they're paying attention to at once. Like me right now, who let Vesper die because I was paying attention to Rich Evans' laugh. Anyways, though, for these stages, I do have a couple of comments about it. First of all, they do sort of the like Frontiers thing, where the enemies that have armor are all spawning on the right side, and then the enemies that don't have armor and may have magic resistance, like the turtles, are spawning on the left side. I think there are some of them that do go to the other paths, so that you would have to be a little bit more careful and try to balance out your damage distribution, but you can always handle that with the towers, and you also have that guy in the middle of the map to activate and then blow everybody up. So it never gets to that point where you actually need to like make your tower building decisions based off of those differences. Instead, you can just micro it in the front of the map, and then you'll be good to go. That's what I've been doing, and this is Fresh Save Impossible difficulty, so this is as hard as it can get in terms of them preventing that until we get some mods, which takes me to the next thing that I want to talk about. I saw somebody post on the Kingdom Rush subreddit that they were making a balance mod for the game, and then asked people what they thought were the like most powerful and least powerful mage towers in the game. Now, there's nothing wrong with asking for other people's input, of course, but if you're going to make a rebalancing mod, it's interesting to me that you don't have strong opinions about the balance yourself. It very well could be that they do have their own opinions and they really just want to see other people's takes on it, but something tells me, my gut tells me that they're asking because they actually don't know and they just want to make a rebalance mod. Maybe that person is watching this right now, and if that's the case, I would caution. Well, I guess it's just advice for people in general, but I would caution people about making mods and risking the market getting oversaturated and then nobody cares about your mod and pays attention to it. Like the number one example I can think of is King Rexy, who made the Reborn mod, which has like custom enemies and boss fights that he had somebody who knows how to make art help him with creating sprites for new enemies and stuff. That's insane. That's an insane amount of effort. And yet, nobody cares because there's too many mods out there. They literally make them faster than I can play them. So, I still have Chaos Mode waiting for me to go beat it. Not to mention all the other stuff that, other people want to see me play. So, I can't get to all of it, at least not in a timely manner. Yet here I am playing Alliance for the third time, but you know what I mean. At least this is for the sake of making like big videos about the game. It's the hot new thing to talk about, but yet again, that's something else that's overshadowing other people's mods. So even though it would be nice to like showcase everything, I just can't do it all. So I have to I had to make a list of priorities based on how urgent I thought each game was to play, and then isolate those things. So another reason why I stopped streaming altogether, at least for the time being, is that there was just too much to do all the time, and I was posting no videos at all. Also, look at this. Now that we've unlocked Niru, I'm not even going to bother assigning points to Vesper's hero skills. We're just going to immediately get Niru. We're going to immediately get the Wisps because they're the best thing to use against flying enemies. And then I'm going to start maxing out the Leaf Whirlwind skill after that. Now that I have the hero XP, I'm contemplating doing stuff with the towers because it would be nice to make my towers matter more. But in the end, there's not really anything satisfying you can get with this amount of points. So instead, the best thing to do would be to just go all in on the reinforcements. Once you have the hero XP thing, just immediately max out the reinforcements to the best of your ability. And there's no reason to get the linear militia. Like, flying enemies are not that bad yet in the game, yet it's still better to max out the shadow archers because the shadow archers are not so squishy that they're going to die to the enemies here. Like, they're still tanky enough that you can still use them as blockers and not die before their duration expires. So the one benefit that you would get out of the other option is not even palpable because the enemies are still not going to be able to kill your reinforcements that quickly. Maybe the bears, but do you really want to block the bears? You'd rather shoot them anyways. So, kind of the same story as before. You have some resistances to worry about here, but the heroes can kind of take care of all of the work for you. I really do have to take back what I said about the towers having like a front row seat in terms of what's the most useful in the game. I really think that the more I think about it, the heroes and the reinforcements kind of do carry the heavy lifting more than any of your other options still. But that could also just be because of me like microing the way that I do. I've seen other gameplay, shout out to Lynn, for like mostly tower based gameplay, and you just build the towers and watch them shoot stuff, and you just watch the heroes and reinforcements stand in the back and shoot stuff too. You just keep them behind other things. There's still not as much micro, and that was with a showcase of the Grim Wraiths that I'm picturing right now as I describe this. So there's only so much you can do. Not that you should have to micro the towers either, but having the option would be nice, I guess. Like, as long as there's always something for you to do, it keeps the game more fun. And something about these games that I noticed is that they tend to give you a little bit less to do with Vengeance. That's one of the things that I criticized it quite heavily for, is that the reinforcements spawned more slowly, which is the case for this game now as well. But I'm not going to hold it too much against the game because at least you have the second hero. So at least they give you that. But I don't know. People always argue about micro in these games, whether or not the micro is too quote unquote required for you to be able to win, and whether or not that counts as being fun. People have said like, "Oh, you're so sweaty with the way that you micro the game, and it makes you worse at strategizing because you're thinking more about how you can like micro your way to victory when you should be thinking about what towers to build." Now, in my case, it's because I like to build the towers to have fun. I have a strategy in mind that I think would be satisfying to pull off. So I would rather force that strategy to work through micro than adapt it to something that's a little bit lamer. Because oftentimes what you have to do is like sacrifice a good spot for like, say, a crossbow fort where you could buff everything with a falconer to get something where like the range isn't even optimally used. And that would be like an Arcana Archers or something like that, and just rely on the bleed damage to kill all the little straggler hyenas and stuff. But that's not as fun for me. I'd rather force a more satisfying strategy so that way the map at the end is something that I'm more proud of. But I'm finding ghosts right now. Like nobody's here to continue that discussion with me by pointing that out. Instead, I'd rather go to the discussion points that have been asked here on my Q&A stuff. So one of them that I got here is from Engineer Monkey saying, "Not saying you have to, but why did you stop uploading Bloons content?" Now, I find that so funny because it's not like my channel was about Bloons content anyways. So for me to post a couple of videos about Bloons and then not post more than a couple, I guess it gave somebody the expectation that it was going to be a regular thing. Poor guy. That was a short-lived obsession of mine. You see, I love the idea of helping other people. That's why I started this YouTube channel in the first place, to make a review of something that you could spend money on in one of Ironhide's games, Blue Dragon in this case, the hero in Iron Marines. Um, and the thought of being helpful to people applies to all sorts of other things too. It doesn't have to be an informative video. It can also be within a video game. And in the case of balloons, I thought it was really fun to help people to beat the boss events that were on every week. Because if you just did it in co-op, you were guaranteed to get like a top 50 place. Also, let me interrupt myself real quick here. I moved the Dark Knight out of combat, even though he could have been used against these enemies, so that way it could get more hero XP. That's the only reasoning why. But anyways, I could help people get to like top 50 on the leaderboard just by beating the event, because we weren't so bad at the game that we wouldn't get top 50 like kind of automatically for playing. And then they would get extra trophies, and the trophies were useful to them because they could be used to buy cosmetics that are only available seasonally. So they had a purpose. It's not like it was an important purpose, but it was something. And so as long as there was that extra like meta sense of productivity that I could get out of helping somebody, in this case, giving them the resources to buy, to buy cosmetics, and also just making them feel happy that they placed high on the leaderboard. That was something that I really liked. Now, because I don't play other video games that are multiplayer, that was like sort of the only one that I had gotten good at and therefore could achieve that in. I felt like I was providing help that you couldn't get from just anybody else because of the fact that I had a lot of game knowledge. So I knew how to do the math to farm better and other shenanigans and stuff like that. And I've even gotten like beyond top 50 a couple of times. I think I have 1 second place medal, 1 third place medal, and 3 first place medals across the board on normal or elite boss events, just by playing with certain people. Now, if there were other games like that I could play, and I feel like there was an extra productive thing that I could do to I don't know, to make it worthwhile to play it, that's the biggest thing for me. So because I did find other games like that, there wasn't as much incentive to specifically play balloons. In fact, in hindsight, that was probably one of the worst ones to play, because the boss events were like, it's like doing an actual raid boss in like some big, what are those called? Like MMO RPGs. It took like 2+ hours. In fact, for me, it usually took 3 hours to do those, especially because I was co-oping with new people every time. I wanted to help out randoms that never got to experience getting a high place in the boss event before, or like didn't have that much monkey money or trophies, anything like that. So I had a lot of fun doing that. And then naturally, by playing the game, it gave me lots of inspiration for ideas for the game. Like playing Kingdom Rush gave me a ton of ideas for different heroes and stuff and towers that could be added to the game. Mostly heroes, though. I cared more about them. I guess I still do, to be honest. But yeah, now there's not as much reason to play it anymore for fun. And I also decided to swear off the game because I realized that I was sacrificing too much time in order to play those events because they took so long. There was one event that I remember crashing on like 7 times total, or like 5 times total, really late into the event. So like I had already put in 2 hours into the event to try to get a top 50 time with other people. 3 other people, by the way, because I wanted to hit the player limit at all times because everybody got the same rewards for being in top 50. So, we would all equally benefit, or like I could maximize the amount of benefit I was providing to people by getting the biggest party possible. And there you go, maximizing the leaf shield for Niru, and going on to the heroic now. But yeah, the boss events were so time consuming just for the possibility of the game crashing or some other problem that the last time that I had a problem, my family had invited me to go do something. I said no because I decided that I'd rather like try to do the event and get another top 50 time. Lo and behold, the boss glitches out at the last phase. So after you've maximized the amount of time that you could put into the event, and it becomes invincible, so you're just guaranteed to lose. I spent not real world money, but just more of the in game money to retry it, even though it was invincible, so it wasn't even my fault that it got through. But it was bugged out, and I was hoping that by reloading it with the retry cache, that I could eventually win and still get something for my time. Nope. I don't remember how many times total I tried it, but it just did not work. It didn't go through. So after that I felt so bad about the fact that I didn't spend time with my family when I could have, all for actually nothing, that I decided, you know what, I'm just not going to play this game anymore. So it was I think it was the right decision on my part. I don't count that as a rage quit. It was more of a sag quit, if that's such a thing, because I just I felt very downtrodden at the thought of sacrificing valuable time for nothing. So that's kind of the main reason why I stopped uploading Bloons content. And now, like I've said, with all the mods and stuff, you know that there's so many other things to possibly do with my time now that I still literally cannot. I can't play all the Kingdom Rush stuff that exists right now because there's so many mods. If I didn't record it all and I just played it on my own time, I probably could do it. But there are still other non-video game activities that I want to do as well. So I'm definitely never gonna get through all of that. So, you know, things had to make the cut. Balloons is just one of those things. Now, if that's not a sufficiently thorough answer, I don't know what would be. I got another question here. What was the first game that you played? The first game that I remember playing was actually Halo 1 with my dad. I didn't really play it though. I just picked up the Needler because I thought it was a cool looking gun, and then didn't use up any of the ammo because I didn't want the numbers to go down. If I could find a way to not have to spend the ammo, then I would not spend the ammo, because I just don't like using up limited resources in games, even down to shooters where you have ammo for all of your guns. I didn't want to use up any of the ammo for the guns, so I played it with my dad. That's the thing, is that I didn't properly play it. It was just my dad that would go in, do the area, like fight everybody, and then I would just stand in the corner safely, so that way he would respawn if he died without having to reload the area, and then go loot the bodies for whatever gun looked the nicest. So the Needler was always number one, and then I don't remember what my second preference was for a gun, because you could hold two. But that was the first game that I remember playing ever. Let's see here what else there is, because I skipped those two questions to go talk about the direction of Ironhide as a company. Let's see. There is, oh, these are not questions. Okay, yeah, there's some things that have not aged well, like asking if I'm going to talk about Junk World. You know what? Somebody did ask me if I think that Junk World is better now than it was before. I haven't played it, so I don't know, but I hear that it is better. And I think they got rid of the energy system, but I don't entirely remember. I'm not sure. Now, let's see. There's a lot of repeat questions as well about my username. So since I've already answered that, I'm skipping that at the moment. Why did you become so proficient in maths? That's what Uza Bupago 2032 asks. Now, I saw a documentary where I oversaw it because my dad was watching it. Two stories in a row about my dad. It was about the guy who has the Guinness World Record for being the human calculator, Scott Flansburgh. And I remember seeing that documentary and seeing like the way they tested it. If I recall correctly, to prove his human calculator ability, he just had to get a random number picked and then add it up back to back. And I think the number he got was like 37 or something. So you just go 37, 74, and then you just keep on adding 37s until, I don't know, some random time limit. So they showed stuff about like his brain, that like the math portion of the brain was extra developed compared to normal people. So it's part of what helped him be a human calculator, but he just always saw things in a different way mathematically. And I remember thinking at the time, like, oh, that's kind of cool. I would like to be able to be fast at math. So whenever we were done taking a test in class, I would just whip out my calculator, because, you know, you weren't allowed to have a lot of your stuff after a test, but a calculator was one of them because you often needed it for the test itself. And then I would punch in numbers, but before pressing equals, I would try to see if I could solve the math problem that I wrote for myself. and then check it on the calculator. So I just went for accuracy first, and then by practicing that, I was able to come up with a bunch of patterns that I could utilize. And then since then, I kind of just determined that, well, all right, when it comes to arithmetic, that's the thing that I try to make myself good at. So I guess I might as well continue being good at the rest of math too. So I just wanted to make sure that I did extra well in all those classes, because I was not a good student to start off with. In fact, I think I was relatively slow. I recall having to stay in during like recess time to finish work because I didn't finish it fast enough. Oh, well, look at that. All the enemies are already dead. So instead of me talking about my childhood, let's talk about what's happening next. I'm going to not upload some videos for a while in order to finish this one. So my next priority is the Alliance review. All right, see ya, everybody.